Okay, welcome everybody. I hit record, so in case you have to leave early, we will have a recording of this that I can send to you. This is the PMF, or Presidential Management Fellowship Program information session, and the PMF application opens tomorrow, September 28th, and will be open for 2 weeks. It opens right at noon Eastern time, 10 o'clock Mountain time. And I will talk about how to apply, some tips for the application, but I want to start with the most important thing first, which is you should absolutely apply. And I start with this because I get the question so often, am I competitive? Should I really apply? I don't know if I should apply, waste my time. Let me tell you this. It is about a 3 to 3.5 hour commitment to apply. It does not require letters of recommendation or a statement of interest that you write in advance. So it's a really pretty easy application to complete. It's still very, very competitive. It's last year was about 8% win rate. But that doesn't mean that Corbell students are not super competitive. Last year, I think we had 6 winners, which was much better than 8% of all the Corbell applicants. So you should absolutely apply. You should also apply a little bit before the deadline. I say a couple of days before the deadline, because if something goes wrong, they will not extend the deadline. So if you're having any submission problems, or you realize you want to, I don't know, take your time or whatever, give yourself a little bit of a buffer. Don't wait until the last minute to apply. You will need a letter from our office because you're a current student and you don't have a complete transcript that shows that you've already graduated. The DU transcripts don't show when you will graduate. I don't know why, but they require that the transcript shows when you will graduate, or you need a letter to say when you will graduate. And you can get that letter from our office. If you go to du.edu/PCO, log in, and then search for Presidential Management Fellowship, it has the instructions of how to request that letter from our office. Several people have already done that, and we try to crank those out pretty quick. Give us up to 3 days to get you that letter back, but if you don't hear back from us within 3 days, make sure you send us a reminder, because you've only got 2 weeks to apply. So make sure you get that done right away. In order to get that letter, you'll need to first apply to graduate. You'll go into Pioneer Web and apply to graduate. Even if you're not planning to graduate until June or August, you apply now, just so that we can create that, we can develop that letter for you. We need you to first apply. And then finally, there's a lot of information out there on the PMF, people who applied in the past, people who were PMFs. If you do a Google search, there's all sorts of information on the web. Just so you know, things change every year. So don't use any information that anybody else gives you because it may have changed. Only use the information that's on the pmf.gov site, or information that I give you, because I'm giving you the most current information. All right. So those are the most important things that I just wanted to get out there in case you have to leave early, but let me keep going here. So the PMF program is the federal government's premier leadership development program. It's the mission is to create a cadre of future government leaders from all disciplines. So it was started years ago under Jimmy Carter in the 70s, and it has evolved, which I'll talk about briefly. You can get much more information about the evolution of the PMF program and what it is today at pmf.gov. You can also subscribe to the listserv. They push out information all the time. And just so you know, we'll talk about this later, you are eligible to apply this year if you're graduating before August. And if you are graduating before August, you'll have 2 more chances to apply if you don't get it this time around. And so you might want to join the listserv, that's that opm.gov/listserv_apps, so that you get information sent to you even after this cycle about PMF. And if you have any more information that I can't answer or that comes up after today, You can also email pmfapplication@opm.gov. All right. So again, very quickly, this program has evolved. There has been really a commitment over the years by many presidents, and they have expanded the program generally. So Jimmy Carter started it in the 70s. It was only for MPPs and MPAs at the time. But then under Reagan, he opened it up to non-public policy students, and went from a 200 maximum cap to a 400 cap. Bush expanded it even more, including development programs and training programs, and he eliminated the cap altogether so that it really grew. And then under Obama, he placed the PMF program under the Pathways programs and extended the eligibility to recent graduates. So it wasn't just for people in their last year of graduate school to apply, but he extended it for 2 more years post-graduation. So, so that's kind of how the evolution has gone. And you can see from this slide that some very accomplished people have come through the PMF program. So I'm not going to read all of this to you, but really it's amazing what this program has produced. I also took a screenshot. I did a little searching on LinkedIn. I put in Presidential Management Fellow and then used the filters to look at the University of Denver and Joseph Corbell specifically, and who had that in their profile. And it yielded 126 results over time. I've been at Corbell for 11 years, and I would have to count it up, but every year we've had PMFs. So in the last 11 years that I've been here. And when I pulled it up, these were the first of the results. And you can see the first person who came up in my results is at ITA, the next person at state, the next person at FEMA, and the next person was at US Space Force. So there's a variety just in the first 4 people that came up. We've had PMFs from Corbell all over the place within the government. Last year, we had a couple of people went to CDC. We've had HHS, USAID. So you name it, we've had it. Okay, big overview. Again, pipeline for future leaders in the federal government. It's a competitive application and assessment process, but it's not a very arduous application. So that's why I always say, if you qualify, you should apply. So again, you can apply this year and up to 2 more years post-grad. The way the program works is that if you get if you become a PMF finalist, that still doesn't guarantee you a job in the government. You then, as a finalist, apply for PMF positions, which I'll talk about a little bit more. But once you are a finalist and you apply for PMF positions, once you get an offer, then you become a PMF, you become a fellow. It's a 2-year fellowship training and development, and not an absolute guarantee, but I'm going to go with like 99% chance of getting a permanent position when you're done with it. The intent is for them to really offer you a permanent position, but they want to reserve the right if something goes wrong to not offer you a position. But generally, I haven't seen any of our fellows not get an offer. The initial appointment is typically at the GS9 level for people with MAs and MPPs. Occasionally, if you're coming with lots of experience, you could start, I'm sorry, I should say that otherwise. Typically, it's at the 11. They do sometimes offer at the 9 or 10 level, and they could offer at the 12 level, but typically it's at the 11. And typically when you're done with the 2 years, you're already promoted to the 13, which is really a fast track. Again, this is really, the idea is to bring in really smart, accomplished people into leadership positions. And so this is the government's way of developing a cohort. Okay, so the way it works is that you you have essentially a year from the time you're named a finalist to get that position. You are onboarded into your particular position, but you're part of a fellowship class. And so there are some cohort activities as part of your class, including some leadership development activities. You will be, as a fellow, working on an individual development plan. You'll have interactive training with your cohort, and you'll have a developmental assignment, at least one, and some PMFs do more than one. It's usually 4 to 6 months long. You also have the opportunity to rotate from agency to agency. So even if you accept a position with an agency that you weren't really as excited about or expecting to work with, you can rotate through other agencies to give it a try. You'll be given a senior level mentor to help you along with your training. And there are also other benefits such as public transportation and subsidies, perhaps teleworking, and perhaps student loan repayment. Again, those all are dependent on the agency that you come in with. And then finally, the opportunity, not the guarantee, but the opportunity to non-competitively convert to a position. Again, that's almost always the case. All right, so again, it opens tomorrow and it will be open for 2 weeks. It'll close on the 12th, right at 10 o'clock. So, you know, be mindful that it's not midnight, 10 o'clock a.m. that is. It will be posted on usajobs.gov, and it will tell you on that site, on the usajobs.gov site, how to apply. You're going to apply through their talent management system. You'll need a resume. It can be a federal resume or a regular private sector resume. They say it doesn't really matter. Whichever you feel most comfortable with is what you should use. The resume is not, I'm going to hesitate here. The resume is not entirely used at the point of selecting finalists. I think that may have changed this year and it may be used at some level, but really what it's mostly used for is once you're a finalist and you're being considered for particular positions to be a fellow in a particular agency. So that said, you can apply with a resume right now. It should be good. It may be used to select finalists. It hasn't been in the past, but I think this year they're going to start using it at some level. So you want it to be good. That said, you can, after you're selected as a finalist, update your resume and upload a new version of your resume, which is great. You'll also need your transcript. This can be an unofficial transcript at this point. And with the transcript, because it doesn't say when you'll graduate, that's what you'll also need a letter from our office verifying intent to graduate by August, at least by August 2022. So again, first apply to graduate on Pioneer Web, and then go in to PCO for the instructions on how to request a letter from our office, verifying intent to graduate. And then if you have a claim to Indian preference, to Indian heritage, veterans preference, or any reasonable accommodations, you'll need to upload supporting documentation of those things. And there is an online assessment. That's what I was saying. It takes about 3 hours to complete. So the whole thing is a pretty, I'm going to put in air quotes, easy application, but it is still very competitive. Finalists will be announced around Thanksgiving. It's usually right after the quarter is over. And from the time they're announced, they'll have 12 months of appointment eligibility. So you can start right away looking for a placement. And our office will absolutely help you. We will involve alumni to help you. So there's no reason to stress at that point. We'll absolutely help you. And then upon securing a position with one of the agencies that you apply to, you'll become a fellow. Okay, so a little deeper dive into the online assessment. What does it look like this year? It's 3 parts. There's the situational judgment, the life experience, and the writing. And I just realized I've been talking and I don't think, is my screen being shared?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. All of a sudden I realized, did I share my screen? Okay, okay, great. So these are the 3 parts. You'll see it's 60 minutes for the first part, 30 minutes for the second part, and 25 minutes for the writing exercise. What they're looking for in all 3 of these parts are the 6 competencies on this slide: flexibility, integrity, interpersonal skills, public service motivation, problem solving, and written communication. And in the handbook that I will show you where to find in a minute, it has a longer description of all 6 of these things and more information on the 3 parts, including a few sample questions. All of the situational judgment and life experience questions are multiple choice. Again, you have 60 minutes and 30 minutes to answer all those questions. And the writing section is just 1 prompt, and they give you a sample prompt from a past year. It will probably be very similar to that prompt. Okay, so a couple of tips on the online assessment and how to be successful. Each part can be completed at different times, but once you start one of the parts, you need to complete it. So you have to go in order. So you have to do the situational first. Going back to that slide, you have to do the situational judgment first, the life experience second, and the writing third. But you can do the first part, leave it for 2 days, and then come back to the second part. But once you start, you have to finish it. So make sure you have 60 minutes to finish. If for some reason you have problems like the power goes out or some other problem, there are a few reasons that they will let you go back to it. All those reasons are outlined in the handbook, but they are really like natural disasters and those kinds of reasons. It's not just, I needed a break. So make sure you have the time to do it. It will give you a pop-up warning 5 minutes before your time is up. And in the situational judgment and life experience sections, again, those are multiple choice. The writing section is used to measure your ability to communicate an appropriate message in writing, organize content in a clear and appropriate manner, and use proper grammar. So those are the things they're looking for in the written assessment. You also are not allowed to cut and paste. And I can't remember if spell check is a thing. It may not be. So, you might have to, you can't cut and paste, but if you are a bad speller like I am, you might have Word open and just, try to spell something, and then you got your answer, and then you can spell it, but you cannot cut and paste the word or a sentence. The system actually measures everything you're doing. So it knows when you're going in and out of the system. It will know if you're trying to cut and paste. If you try to cut and paste multiple times, it will actually knock you out. And then applicants with disabilities may request a reasonable accommodation before starting the online assessment, but you have to do it before you start. Okay, so who can apply and how to apply? Again, you have to have an advanced degree completed by August 31st. So either an MA, MPP, or PhD by August 31st. You can apply again for 2 years after that date. You may apply, okay, I already said that. You need to be either a US citizen or have the ability to legally work in the US. Many of the positions require you to get a security clearance. So I'll say right now, if you don't think you can get a security clearance, it's not a deal breaker. There are some positions that don't require that, but typically many of the positions that are posted require US citizenship. Okay, so it opens tomorrow. You need to follow the link at usajobs.gov. You need to apply to graduate on Pioneer Web, and you need to request a letter. I keep saying the same thing because that's really important. And please request the letter as soon as possible so that we have time to get it to you, and that's not a stress for you or for us. By the way, you can go into the system, in and out of the system, all the way up until the deadline. So, and I believe even after you submit, but don't take my word for that. Make sure you just have everything in a couple of days before, and then you submit. And then I would really highly recommend that you read through the everything on the pmf.gov website and through the handbook really, really well. It's tons of great information. And again, it's the only place I would go to get information about the application, because things do change from year to year. Okay, including there have been changes to the online assessment. So if you're talking to people who applied last year, there are some changes since last year. So go to the handbook for prep on all of that. And applicants are able now to access, okay, this is what I was saying, access their submitted application to upload new or updated documents up until the application closes. So, and then if you actually can, if you're a veteran, you can actually upload information on veterans preference all the way up to 2 weeks after it closes. Okay, so this gives you an idea of just how competitive the PMF application process is. Last year, they had 6,818 applicants and had 551 finalists, which is about 8%. That was last year. They typically try to not offer more finalists the opportunity than they think they will have fellowships available. So my guess is for 2021, they had nearly 550 fellowships available. Maybe a little less because some of the finalists will just drop out on their own accord, but they're not trying to make, once you become a finalist, they're not trying to make the process super competitive at that point. They want all the finalists who want to be in the government to be able to get a fellowship, if that makes sense. 153 institutions represented and 77 different disciplines. Many, if not, well, let's say that the majority of fellows tend to be policy, international affairs type students, but they also are recruiting, if you have friends from the sciences or other disciplines, they're recruiting from all disciplines, and they tend to have about 10% veterans, which is not that different from the overall percentage of winners. Okay, so where have fellows been hired? This is the list since 2017. This should not be surprising to you, and hopefully this will make you even more excited. Department of State, Health and Human Services, Department of Agriculture, USAID, Treasury, Education, Justice, EPA, and more. So those are places that Korbel students tend to love to be, and so this is a great fit for Korbel. And then this is just, where to get more information, the website, pmf.gov. And I mentioned at the beginning, you can subscribe to the listserv. And if you have any questions, PMF application at opm.gov. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have first. And then what I'm going to do is the OPM is doing a session today, right now, and theirs is just, it's not what I did. It's not an information session. It's just a Q&A session as far as I understand. So if you have any questions that I can't answer, or you want to get it from the horse's mouth, we'll switch over to that session after after any questions you have for me. So I'm going to stop sharing, and so you can see my face, turn on my video. There we go. So what questions do you all have? Yes, Monica.
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't know. I guess my general question is, I'm not convinced that I want to pursue a career in the federal government. Not completely still. So is this still worthwhile for me to pursue, even if I don't end up wanting
So it's hard for me to hear. Is there somebody who can repeat it who's closer to the microphone?
Yep, I can repeat it. So
Okay.
Monica's asking, she's not really sure if she wants to pursue a career in government long-term. Is it still worth applying? And I think your question is like, do you have to stay after you accept the PMF?
Yeah, great question. I'm glad you asked that. I didn't even plant that question, but I'm so glad you asked that. And that's why I always start with, you should absolutely apply, because the answer is yes, yes, yes. You can always turn it down. And because it's not a very arduous application process, I always say, why not, right? It's not that hard to apply. It's a matter of submitting your resume, applying to graduate, getting a letter from our office, and then filling out the assessment. So, you know, it's 3 hours of your time. I would say, even if you're not sure you would take it, you should do it. But once you get to that point, if you, if you are a finalist, then you can start to explore the options. Maybe there's something that's really exciting to you for the moment, and you do it for 2 years, and then you still decide you don't want to continue with the federal government. That's fine too. There's no obligation after the first 2 years of the fellowship to accept an appointment after that. And it's a great opportunity. When I showed you where these former PMFs landed, I think that the slide that had the 4 examples of PMFs, I think all but one of them were no longer with the government. So it's a great launch in general into a variety of careers. Great question. Any other questions?
I noticed that you have like State Department appointments next week. Are there any specifically for the PMF, or should we just come to the general time?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So we are happy to meet with you about your resume. If you have questions about PMF specifically, I would say shoot me an email rather than, coming to one of those sessions. But if my guess is that you're asking about your resume, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So if you want a resume review, a couple of things. My first suggestion is to upload it into PCO, into the do you know what I'm talking about, Janet? In PCO, you can upload your resume.
Yeah, like the school approved one that we had to do like last year in the beginning when we started.
Yes, exactly. So you'll upload it there, and then you'll get feedback from our staff within 1 or 2 days. When you upload it, make the title PMF resume, and that will alert us that you want us to review it as if it's the PMF resume and not something else, right? If the review that you get doesn't have enough information, or you have really specific questions, then yes, come to the State Department drop-ins. We may be adding some more general drop-ins for this week, and next week we will have even more office hours through the appointment section.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And if you have any other questions just about the application itself, feel free to just shoot us an email, because you don't really need to have an appointment for that. Any other questions? I hope if you were on the fence, I convinced you you should definitely apply. One of our PMFs last year was, she was like, I don't know if I should apply. I'm so busy right now. I've got 2 jobs and a midterm coming up, and it was all these different things. And I said, oh my gosh, run, don't walk. It was literally like 2 days before it closed. Go fill it out right now. And she said, really? Do I really need to? Do you think I should? And I said, absolutely. Guess what? She was a finalist, and now she's working in an agency for the government, and it's a great, great fit. So you should absolutely just throw your hat in.
Always good to have choices. Yes, choices are good.
All right, well, if there aren't any other questions, then I think what we should do, Jamie, are you standing there? Do you want, I'm happy to get off now, or I can share my screen and bring up the OPM.
Do you want to, I think it'd be better if you shared your screen and brought in the OPM.
I can do it.
Yeah. And we'll just leave it running until.
I think I can do it, but having Teams and let me see if it'll work. I just realized because they have it in Teams, and so it might be a problem.
Oh, it's in Teams?
Rayanne, I have another quick question.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the like applying for graduation. If anything changes, like, can we still go back like later when it's closer to graduation and change anything, or is this like it? I mean, like for certifications, I might get like a public diplomacy one, I might not, so.
That one doesn't matter. They just want to make sure that you actually will have your degree, your MA degree by August.
Sorry, I mean by like DU. Well, could I?
Oh, I see. You're saying, can you apply to graduate and then go back and change things?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you can do that.
Thank you.
And just work with student affairs if that's the case.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, let me see if I can bring it up.
I can try to if you can't get it.
Yeah, the problem is I'm not getting the sound because I'm on Zoom.
Oh. Okay, well, why don't I try? So we'll just close out of this one for now.
Sounds good. All
Okay.
right, hope you all are applying. Take care.